Afternoon. We'd like to welcome all of you to this service for Mary, who we all knew and loved. We'd like to welcome all of you who are here and welcome all of you who are following us online. We're going to open with two readings today. These are from the prophet by Kahil Gibran. The first reading is on teaching, and the second is an excerpt from the farewell. This is on teaching. Then said a teacher, "Speak to us, O teacher." And he said, "No man can reveal to you aught but which is already lies half asleep in the dawning of your knowledge. The teacher who walks in the shadow of the temple among his followers gives not of his wisdom, but rather of his faith and his lovingness. If he is indeed wise, he does not bid you enter the house of his wisdom, but rather leads you to the threshold of your own mind. The astronomer may speak to you of his understanding of space, but he cannot give you his understanding. The musician may sing to you of the rhythm which is in all of space, but he cannot give you the ear which arrests the rhythm, nor the voice that echoes it. And he who is versed in the science of numbers can tell of the regions of weight and measure, but he cannot conduct you thither. For the vision of one man lends not its wings to another man. And even as each one of you stands alone in God's knowledge, so must each of you be alone in his knowledge of God and his understanding of the earth." And these readings were from a copy of Mary's book that were marked as some of her favorites. And the last is part of a lengthier section called the farewell. Farewell to you and the youth I have spent with you. It was but yesterday we met in a dream. You have sung to me in my aloneness, and I of your longings have built a tower in the sky. But now our sleep has fled, and our dream is over, and it is no longer dawn. The noontide is upon us, and our half-waking has turned to fuller day, and we must part. If in the twilight of memory we should meet once more, we shall speak again together, and you will sing to me with a deeper song. And if our hands should meet in another dream, we will build another tower in the sky. We now invite you to pause for a brief moment of silence for personal reflections or prayers, and we especially ask you to remember Mary's oldest sister, Carolyn Yoakum, who is in the hospital today.
So we're going to invite people to come up and share stories and memories of Mary during this service. We have many former students who couldn't be with us today, and we have two current KCA students who I'll call up at intervals to read remembrances that have been shared, that have been sent to us to share with you all today from those folks. I'd like to share some words first from Mary's colleague and KCA co-founder, Ann Goldcamp. Ann says, "I met Mary when she joined the faculty at Loretto. Her office was next to mine, and I remember how I enjoyed getting to know her. I remember many meetings in her basement as we planned for the future of Kansas City Academy. She did amazing things as a teacher. I remember simulated murder investigations and mock trials to follow. At least one happened in an actual courtroom with the entire school in attendance. She was a stellar principal who always supported her faculty. I missed her greatly when she retired. Even then, she maintained contact and provided good counsel when we needed it. I miss her even more now." Drew, do you want to come up?
This is a remembrance shared from Mary's niece, Melisande Hill. Mary Jean Statz was the youngest of 3 daughters of Orvis Laverne Statz and Frances Louise Statz. She was born 1951 in southwest Missouri. She was my Aunt Mary. She died this week on October 12, 2021. She was 70 years old. Mary spent her life as an educator. She came from a family of teachers. Her mother and her grandmother on her father's side were teachers. Her 2 sisters were also teachers. Her life was teaching. It was who she was, a teacher. Quintessential to her being were the foundations of the educational philosophy of humanistic education. This concept in and of itself represents progressive, liberal-minded education with which the conservative American public vilify and detest without actual understanding of what it means. I cannot speak at this time intelligently about the details, but suffice to say, there are many. Mary articulated and made real in practice these principles. She was ahead of her time in her profession, in her life, in her political beliefs, and in who she was as a human. Like many people who are plopped in time and space for which they do not fit, Mary suffered for who she was in all aspects. If you knew Mary, you knew her unwavering love for people, her belief that all people are essentially good. You also knew that she held no illusions as to the nature of society and humanity. She understood not only the personal nature of education, but she also understood the social and political pangs that weighed upon individuals' educational process in this country. She felt them in her soul, like no other person I knew. She fought her entire career against traditional education in this country, but more than that, she lived and breathed the contrasting practice and concepts that fed individuals' education primal nature. She created a safe space for people to deeply learn. I have no idea how many people she's influenced as students or as peers or mentors. I'm sure there are many, many, many more than I can imagine. For me, my Aunt Mary was irreplaceable, irascible, implacable in who she was. She made herself vulnerable to the world, then made her way in life carrying this vulnerability as armor and sword against those who sought to dim the future of this world. This world has lost a light, a truly kind and loving soul who is more than did her part to make the world a better place. I consider myself lucky to share her DNA. I will never forget, and I will sing her version of life until my own demise.
So if anybody wants to come up and speak, please feel free. I'll kind of pause and then I'll call the kids up and alternate, but I'll give people some time to come up and.
Hey, my name's Tucker Slough. I was a student of Mary's at KCA, and everyone here knows how special she really was. I mean, if you were a student of hers, you were touched by her, undoubtedly. She was just such a caring person, and she is what the people on the right pejoratively call an SJW, but she did it before it was cool. She, if you were a student of hers, love and kindness and the fire of what we call liberalism was a prerequisite for her classes. You had to come out of her classes as a better person. She would wake up inside of you something that was you'd take on with you for the rest of your life. I'll tell just a silly story. So one time we were having a discussion about cults in her class, because we would talk about the craziest stuff in Mary's classes. So during this discussion, she says to me, "You know, Tucker, you're actually the kind of person who joins cults." And I go, "What?" Because I always thought of myself as sort of being like a really independent thinker, and the kind of person who comes to KCA that's what we are, And she goes, "Well, because don't get me wrong, the kind of people who join cults are people who are they're not just happy with talk. They want action. And they go out and they find people who lead them down these paths where they're offering them solutions." And it took me years to really grasp what she meant by that. So many cults later, I think I finally get it. So if anyone wants to buy some flowers or pamphlets, I'll be in the back after the service. So yeah, Mary was very special. I mean, so many of my fellow students, anytime I talk to any of us, she's the first person we talk about. And her and Carol and everyone else just created such a special place over there. I just know so many of us wouldn't have made it the way we did without it. So thanks.
Yazzie, do you want to come up?
This is a remembrance from Mary's niece, Monet Fisher. My family is already small and it got smaller yesterday. My Aunt Mary Jean, youngest of the Statz girls, passed away after a short battle with cancer. She was diagnosed in June, and by that time it was already more than she could handle. Mary was ahead of her time and was an advocate for inclusiveness, diversity, change, progress, and she brought kindness to everyone. She was a highly regarded educator and a co-founded an alternative 6th through 12th grade private school in Kansas City. She was a positive impact on thousands of young people that needed just a little extra. She believed in everyone. I remember once when I was struggling in school, probably 6th or 7th grade, she came down to Anderson and spent a whole day with me, just me. I so wish I could remember our conversations from that day. I know we walked around the farm together and it was very special to me. I didn't ever get to thank her or let her know I even remembered her visit. I, Mary, you are forever in heart and I will miss you.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Donette. I was a student of Mary's at both Loretto and Kansas City Academy. My mother and I drove from St. Louis this morning. And you would think, in all of those hours, I could have figured out something to say. And to her family, though nothing can ease your sorrow, please know that there are so many of us that carry your grief and heartache with us, and so many of us who carry a love for Mary in our hearts today and forever. Peace and blessings.
Drew, oh, come on, Rosemary, say.
My name is Rosemary Yarmo, and 30 years ago I started teaching here at KCA. I started teaching here because my niece, who is sitting back there, had a child that was going to school here, and I had just, after growing up and being something like in my 40s and finishing my master's degree, not knowing what to do with it, she said, "Why don't you go to KCA and see if Martha would like you to teach English at KCA?" And so I did. And as I say, that was 30 years ago, because I was here for 15 years. They were 15 of the most wonderful years I think I can remember, although being a docent at the Nelson now is another wonderful 15 years. But being here at KCA gave me the opportunity to look around and to see students that I had, students that are still with me on Facebook, people who call or write or remember me, and when they see me, the love and the hugs and the ability to be part of their lives. And it's all because of Mary. Mary made teaching, Mary made being a part of this school so incredible that you felt like you had given and were given to in such a way that tomorrow would have to be an even better day. And it was. They always were better days. Just being here, being a teacher at this school, working with Mary, and having the joy of those 15 years of my life. Those of you who go to the school now, those of you who went to the school before, how lucky you are, and how lucky I was.
Drew, do you want to come up?
This is a poem that Stephanie Green, Mary former student and former KCA faculty, would like to share with us. When Great Trees Fall by Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil in silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with hurtful clarity. Our memory suddenly, sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised, walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, take leave of us. Our souls dependent upon their nurture now shrink, wizened. Our minds formed and informed by their radiance fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly, spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be better and be better, for they existed.
Hi. So I graduated from KCA in 2015. Mary was kind of stepping back from the school around the time I started, but her and Carol actually have taught now 3 generations of my family. My grandmother went to Loretto. My aunt went to KCA, and then, I also went to KCA. I have a 2-year-old son now. It's weird to think how long it's been since I graduated, even though it hasn't really been that long. And I find myself a lot of the time taking care of him and teaching him in ways that we were taught at KCA. Talking together about things instead of approaching them like a problem all the time. And I want you guys to know that obviously my son will not be able to go to KCA that is the same that I went to, because of course it's always changing. But the teachings that she brought to KCA are even being passed down now through, of course, her family, but also through us, her students.
My name is Abigail Singleton, and I was a desperate parent in the late 90s with a child in a public school who was struggling, and I knew he had it in him to do what he wanted to do, but if it hadn't been by word of mouth from other parents to get me to come here, my son would probably still be struggling. He's been very successful what he does, but I attribute that to Mary Statz, letting me come in and talk to her and really just get down to the feeling of, gosh, somebody understands me like she does. I've been going to these other schools where they go, well, it's just his problem, it'll never get better, you've got to be a better parent. Anyway, the combination of her and the teachers making my son and I feel so much more comfortable. After 3 months, I could just feel it in him that he had just embraced something that had not been there before. So I want to thank Mary, and I want all the parents here to feel that same thing that you have done for your children, and I hope will continue to pass on the words that Kansas City Academy is just a wonderful place for a lot of children, and it is nurturing, and I will never forget it.
I don't know whether I'm going to make it through this, so forgive me. I'm one of those old students. I started at Loretto, and I remember being devastated after my 5th grade year when it closed. While I didn't start at Kansas City Academy right as soon as it opened, I did visit a lot and started a few years after it had been open, after my parents were satisfied it was going to stay open. And Mary and Martha and Carol and Ann all started a school that was just a place to call home, a place where we all felt safe, where we all could be open. You know, and I still talk all the time to my kids about doing the Constitutional Convention, you know, which was one of my favorite parts about Mary was redoing that, coming up with a completely different system of government. It was pretty crazy. So I just, we all carry some of that hope and joy with us that was brought to us, and that inclusion and that feeling of being home. So thanks.
Yazzie?
This is a remembrance from Mary's former student, Sherry Jenkins. A long and sorrowful night, I was relieved to see that the sun did still rise. But for the first time since I was 15, it rose to a world without Mary. But those first rays of light reminded me that Mary's light in our lives will continue to shine, but the way we continue to live. Mary was my teacher, mentor, confidant, and friend. A remarkable teacher indeed. She was able to tame and harness the unbridled energy and insatiable curiosity of this once chaotic teenager. Mary too was insatiably curious, yielding her a lifelong learner. As a teacher, she had the unique ability to understand and play to the individual strengths of each of her students. Gregarious, provocative, and bold. Her intellect and curriculum inspired and focused even her most wayward students. As a mentor, her patience with me was claiming her encouragement was motivating, but it was her unwavering belief in me that helped yield my confidence to
Persevere.
persevere. Long ago, Mary gave me a book to inspire and help me in times of need, explaining that it too had sustained her. The words of
Gandhi.
Gandhi. Some of his most famous words in that book became my rock. And I am heartened as I think of those words and the life of my dear friend today. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. I love you, Mary.
My name is Alice Munninghoff, and I am here with Liz Barnes. Both of us served as heads of school here in Kansas City with our friend Mary. I was at Notre Dame de Sion for 33 years, and Liz was at St. Paul's for many years. And all those years, we knew Kansas City Academy, and we would meet monthly, every 6 weeks, as heads and share experiences and stories, and share programs that are going on, and we visit each other's schools. And I think one of the things about Mary that always struck me was her positive nature, her positive attitude, her can-do attitude. Because of all of our schools, if you know Kansas City, I mean, it's the whole gamut. It goes from schools that would be fairly wealthy places to places that really have their financial struggles, enrollment struggles, and whatever. We all had struggles. But she was always positive, and she always talked with such pride about her students and about what was happening in the school. And I know for me, one of the greatest meetings that we had was when we would come to Kansas City Academy, because the feel there was amazing. How everyone was accepted, how everyone was loved. And that came right from Mary, in my opinion. It always comes from the top. And so I wouldn't have too much to say other than to say that she was a good friend. She was wonderful in that she would call me sometimes and say, you know, this is going on, and we would just kind of problem solve together. And she didn't need me, that's for sure. But I think she just really appreciated that there are other people that, you know, were going through some of the same things, and were there to listen, and were there to share. And so she was, I miss her. And we, even in retirement, we always got together until COVID. Some of us old heads, the old people, we would get together and share a lot of stories about what we're doing now, and back kind of reminiscing about our days together. So may she rest in peace. And I think she was a living example of that passage in the Gospels that says, "Blessed are those who believe in what they cannot see," because that was Mary. She believed in what she could not see.
Hello, I'm Jill Turner. I am a proud graduate of KCA and had the privilege of having Mary Statz as my teacher in law and government in 1997-ish. And it was such an eye-opener. Learned different ways to look at the world, different ways to handle problems, and I've carried that with me through my entire adult life. I got to know Mary even better due to some poor decisions that I made through my high school years, in hindsight. But she'd take you into the office, she'd close the door, and it was never as bad as you thought it was going to be. She took those opportunities to teach you, help you learn, help you grow, help you become a better person. And I feel like that's missing from education a lot of times, and Mary got it. As an adult, I had the privilege to work with Mary on the KCA board, and I consider Mary a friend now. Got to work with her on that level. Instead of being her student, we were equals, and we were working to make sure KCA continued to be the fantastic place that she wanted it to be. And I got to get no penny, got to have some drinks at KCA auctions. And I just think it's so rare to have an educator that touches a student's life to the point that 20 years later, we're friends, and she'll be missed. And I'm so thankful that I had Mary as part of my life to shape who I am today.
Good afternoon. My name is Portia Seals. I am one of those challenged students of the 90s that was afforded the privilege and the honor to grace those hallways across the street for a couple of years. And those were some of the best years of my life. And as a kid, and she was definitely ahead of her time. D&I work is what they call it now. But she's been doing that for years and cut the cloth for it. When I was watching this sweet girl, I just couldn't help but to come up here and speak because I was you. I was you. And I didn't see lots of kids that looked like me across the street. But even back then, I knew that my Black life mattered. And that was a big deal. That was a big deal. Out of the 79 kids, I remember there were 79. The reason I thought that was a big deal was because I had just come from a school where that was like a couple of classes getting together. And I could know everybody by name, and the walls were painted with glory and color. And there was this odd thing that I joke about, the smoking and the non-smoking lounge. I was like, what kind of school is this? And my very conservative parents let me go here. My pastor daddy let me go to a school with a non-smoking lounge. But during those times, I got my chops. I was challenged with, who am I? What do I believe? Even if I don't believe what anybody in the room believes, what do I believe? And once I know what I believe, stand on it. That's what she taught me. That's what they all taught us, over and over and over again, to challenge the norms. And even to this day, those thousands of kids who have thousands of kids, who touch thousands of kids' lives, get to challenge the norms. And for that, we are grateful. Our blessings are with you, and our prayers are with you.
Drew, do you want to come up?
This is a remembrance from Christy Green, Mary's niece. Mary was my aunt, mentor, role model, friend, travel companion, and sometimes co-conspirator. The aunts are legendary among my friends. Her laugh was contagious, and she had a special way of seeing the best in everyone, even when they couldn't see it in themselves. I don't quite know how to go on without her, but this poem by Warren Hansen called The Next Place gives me a sense of peace that she is and will be surrounding us with her light. The next place that I go will be as peaceful and familiar as a sleepy summer Sunday and a sweet, untroubled mind. And yet, it won't be anything like any other place I've ever been, or seen, or even dreamed of, in the place I leave behind. I won't know where I'm going, and I won't know where I've been, as I tumble through the always and look back towards the when. I'll glide beyond the rainbows, I'll drift above the sky, I'll fly into the wonder without ever wondering why. I won't remember getting there, somehow I'll just arrive, but I'll know that I belong there and will feel much more alive than I've ever felt before. I will be absolutely free of the things that I held on to, that were holding on to me. The next place that I go will be so quiet and so still that the whispered song of sweet belonging will rise up to fill. The listening sky with joyful silence, the unheard harmonies of music made by no one playing, like a hush upon breeze. There will be no room for darkness in that place of living light, though where an ever-dawning morning pushes back the dying night. The very air will fill with brilliance as the brightly shining sun and the moon and 500,000 stars are married into one. The next place that I go won't really be a place at all. There won't be any seasons, winter, summer, spring, or fall, nor a Monday, nor a Friday, nor December, nor July, and the seconds will be standing while hours hurry by. I will not be a boy or a girl, a woman or a man. I'll simply be just simply me, no worse or better than. My skin will not be dark or light, I won't be fat or tall. The body I once lived in won't be part of me at all. I will finally be perfect. I will be without a flaw. I will never make one mistake or break the smallest law. And the me that was impatient or angry or unkind will simply be a memory. The me I left behind will travel empty-handed. There is not a single thing I have collected in my life that I would ever want to bring except the love of those who loved me and the warmth of those who cared, the happiness and memories and magic that we shared. Though I know the joy of solitude, I'll never be alone. I'll be embraced by all the family and friends I've ever known. Although I might not see their faces, all our hearts will beat as one, and the circle of our spirits will shine brighter than the sun. I will cherish all the friendship I was fortunate to find, all the love, all the laughter, and the place I leave behind. All these good things will go with me, and they will make my spirit glow, and that light will shine forever in the next place that I go.
When you need your kid, you get to have your kid sometimes. I'm Kathy Baldwin Heitman, and this is my son, John. Do you want to say something specific, or are you just hanging with me?
I'm a little too old to just hang with you. Anybody who knew Mary could always see that smile on her face, that infectious smile, that infectious laugh. She was an infectious person to everyone who walked through those halls. Parents, students, faculty. I was very, very grateful. I met Mary when I was that tall. You know, when my mom first started working at KCA. I know a couple former students actually babysat me. Some of them are here. So thank you, because I never said thank you then. I was probably spoiled and rude, so thank you. But I knew Mary as a friend. I knew her as a very, very good friend. So when I did go to KCA, when I turned sixth grade, not 16, sorry, 6th grade, I didn't have just my mom. I also had another friend. So, which also meant for me is I really couldn't get in trouble. They would talk to each other. But I still got in trouble. So I'd have to go talk to Mary, then my mom, and then the backlash from both of them from Dad, which he worked there too. Great. But every time we would do an assembly down in the theater, the one thing I would remember Mary doing, leaning up against the wall. You didn't know where she was, but she'd be leaning up against the wall and she'd walk out, say what she needed to say, and let everything else go. What needed to happen that day. But that thing is she touched, like I said, students, faculty, parents. She touched all of us. She really did. She did her best with what was given to her. And what was given to her was an amazing student body and faculty that wraps around her and helped her. She listened to every student. It wasn't, okay, that's just one student. Cool. She listened to every single student, every parent, every faculty member. Problems, concerns, comments, praise. And I remember when I graduated in 2011, and they said, well, this is Mary's last year. And I knew that she had a really extensive, but good and extensive time at KCA with Loretto, that she'd be missed from there, but I knew she'd still be hiding in the background. She always did. She always hid in the background. But it's kind of surreal. It really is for all of us. But this is not a time to cry. It's a celebration of life, everything she's done for every single one of us. Thank you.
Mary touched, as John said, our whole family and so many more. Mary had incredible faith in just the innate ability and heart of every single person she came across. And when I met her, I came to KCA as the development and admissions person. We worked side by side for a long time, 12, 13, 14 years. And then she said, I have faith in you for one more thing. Oh, shit. And so she mentored me, encouraged me to go get some more academics under my belt and to try to follow her footsteps. But she was very clear with me that she didn't really want me to follow her specifically, but to follow me, my individual gifts and goals. And she would support me in that, and she did that. Incredible life experience, incredible friend. And so I thought I might just share a couple of my favorite things about Mary. First, this woman could make some kick-ass chicken salad, some serious chicken salad. Now, I don't know if she had a really large repertoire because that was mostly what she brought, but it was really, really good. I also loved that when you walked into her office, she never stayed behind her desk. She would meet you at the table every time. I liked it that she chose a lime green cast when she broke her ankle. I loved it when I would come into the office and she and Buster had already been in there early in the morning talking about politics. And she was on the rant. She had an incredible vocabulary in the cussing category, especially for corruption and greed and any isms that you could point to. Her laugh, as many have said, was quite contagious. The opposite I saw was that look, like, get it together now, that look. And just the seriousness with which she took her humor as a teaching tool, as a living tool, as a coping tool. It was really important for things not to get just too damn serious. And let's remember, let's keep some perspective. And her perspective lasted over so many years that she could bring that. You know, she had seen so much that she would be able to say, yes, this is serious and it's not the end of the world. Or, yes, this is magnificent and there will be more. And so her perspective was incredible and helpful and steadying, you know. She always said that if the school, what was the exact, she would say, if there was not a reasonable study, there's a study you would do to see if a business should open, whatever that's called. And she said, if we had done that study and looked at the financials, we would have never opened the school. We would just never have opened it. And as others have said, she's had incredible faith and dedication, the commitment to keeping that mission central, regardless of the people, whoever were the students, whoever was the faculty. It really was just about that mission. And keeping that at the center is the biggest lesson of all that I've learned in KCA and since my time of leaving KCA and other experiences, is keeping that mission at center is her main legacy for me personally. That it isn't about this, it's all about the people and it's not about the people. It's about those people surrounding a mission that's solid, and this one was solid. So I'll just wrap up to say that I'm starting to realize that there is an incredible KCA heaven somewhere where there is Mary, and there's Martha, and there's Karen Meddy, and there is Bob Sanders and others. And I have a sense that they're hanging out with us today, and I'm really grateful.
Yazzie, do you want to come up?
This is a remembrance sent in by Mary's former student. Camille Benton. I am saddened to hear Mary has passed. I have very fond memories of her. I was in the class of 1984. I remember the day she came into Loretto. She had such a different energy about her. She was laid back, open, warm, smart, and funny. I remember her quick smile and her kind ways. I always felt like I could tell Mary anything. She cared for all of us so much. I was having a hard time with my parents' divorce, and I remember sitting down with her and confiding my feelings. She was so wonderful to me. She was also a great teacher. She listened to us like us wax. Hear ourselves and hear others, as that also helped us learn. She offered loving and fair feedback and would ask questions back to us, to make us think harder or differently about the topics. Godspeed, Mary, we will remember your kindness and dedication.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deep Methi. Recently, I read a book called Rebel Ideas by Matthew Said, and byline of the book was The Power of Diverse Thinking. And as I was thinking about Mary today, it reminded me that what that book sort of talked about, part of it, that why the idea and thoughts behind diverse thinking is important in our education and in our learning. And I'm so grateful that Mary was actually communicating that thought before I realized. And I thank her for creating the school and, giving opportunity to students to learn something differently, students who are look at the world differently. And thank you again.
All right, you guys are all going to have to help me from falling apart. I'm Danielle McHugh Henley. I graduated in '93, and listening to all of you today, I just realized what an amazing community we have. I know there's been times in my life where people would be like, oh, you went to a special school. And I'm like, yeah, I am special. And not, I've heard a couple of words about troubled. We're all troubled. We're troubled in this world. But in particular, we're all special because of that light that our founders that created this school kept in their different ways. And the way that they checked on us, the looks, the smiles, those words. I can't think of anything in particular of words that were ever said from Mary. I do remember once Martha looking at me when I was reading a book called Running from Safety going, that's a good title. What do you think about that? But the critical thinking, and as a parent and raising my girls and dealing with the public school system of Santa Fe, which is far below anything in Missouri, unfortunately. But in guiding my children in the times of we were going through troubles in our school or our family or whatever it is that we were going through, knowing that we had a voice to actually stand up for ourselves and our needs of how they needed to learn what I was learning. In particular, there was a time where there was a teacher in my daughter's school that had decided everything was going to be through this Khan Academy videos, and he was sucking up the entire Wi-Fi for the whole school. And I kept saying to him, my daughter needs a math book. Oh, she doesn't need a math book. My daughter needs a math book, because apparently I'm going to have to teach her. There's more ways to learn than just through Khan Academy, and unfortunately, she's not really picking things up in the way that you're teaching. And we went toe to toe. And I can remember at one point sitting in the head administrator's class or office, and he kind of said, and what qualifies you as a teacher? Because as far as he knew, I was a banker, and he was right. I was a corporate trainer. And I got to stand up and kind of say, well, I got to teach. I had an opportunity to teach, and when I was in high school, I got a wonderful opportunity to come back and teach at the school later. And so I rattled off that I had taught middle school and high school, and that my mother had been a teacher and my father had been a teacher in a corporate world at Hallmark, and the guy kind of backed down. And it just felt good to say, you know, we all learn from each other. And KCA was the community that I think really made sure that those lights are continuing to grow and spreading. And of course, Mary was the one that we could all tell our dark secrets to, or she would give us the look because she knew something was going on. And I just always remember those beautiful eyes. And I just wanted to share that and say, she's bigger than life now. So is Martha. And they can all be right there when 15 of us all need them. They can now. I don't know how that woman ever slept. But I just wanted to say thank you to all of you guys, and knowing that there is a different way to be, and that love and kindness and listening and everything everybody said is just such a beautiful thing. And I'm so lucky, and all of us are, to be a part of this community. Thank you very much.
My eyes were drier before Danny got up, but if she can do it, I can do it. My name is Natalie. But what I want to tell you, and maybe some of you can relate to, is how many times in my life I have been called Pollyanna with that look and people rolling their eyes at me. Natalie, the world doesn't work like that. Natalie, we can't do that. And I say, I've been there. I lived it for 2 years. I know that it can work like that because of the community created by Mary and Martha and so many wonderful people that taught us you can look weird, you can think weird, you can be different from everyone else in the room, and you matter, and you can still love that person next to you. And so even though I still, all these years later, get called Pollyanna all the time, I say, I can give you the address. And it's 7933 Main Street, and it is in every heart of every student that Mary ever taught. So thank you, Mary, and everyone who still does that amazing work today.
Yazzie, I think you have one more. Is this the last one that you have? Is that the last one you have? Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to stand next to you?
This
Yes.
is a remembrance from Mary's former student, Joe O'Connor. Mary Statz will always be one of the great teachers I've had in my life. I owe a lot of the success I had in college and as a lifelong learner to her. She taught me how to engage a topic, explore its premise with all available research, challenge the supporting evidence, and let the chips fall where they may. Life is too short to follow ideas that don't hold up to
Scrutiny.
Okay, yeah. In addition to teaching critical thinking skills in all of her classes, Mary also showed her students her curiosity for life and the world around us. She opened our eyes to so many fascinating ideas and the infinite possibilities of stuff we don't even know about yet. Learning about one thing leads to the next, and so on. Mary gave her students a magic ticket to a lifelong learning journey. Arguably, Mary's most important gift to her students was, I think, at the root of her motivation for learning and teaching. Her presence at KCA was from her heart. Everything she did there was because she cared. She cared about every person there. We weren't just students to her. We were people with names, and she knew the stuff that we cared about. She connected her lessons to us. But most importantly, she showed us what it looks like to be there and care about everyone around you every single day. Mary showed her students heart and curiosity and gave us the critical thinking tools to make of them in our lives. She will be missed, but her contribution to countless lives will continue to grow. Thank you for being there and sharing your life with us.
My name is Jessica Snyder, class of 97. Both my brothers went to Kansas City Academy of Learning back then. I always joked that, they took the of learning off because we weren't learning anything because we were a bunch of assholes, weren't we? My son also went to Kansas City Academy because I really believed in the mission. But on the way over here, I just keep remembering on her podium the bumper sticker, "If you want peace, work for justice." And how Mary inspired in me and a lot of my classmates the ability to stand up for what is right, regardless of what that was, because I know that at different times in my life, what I felt was right was that I could turn this in late and you're still gonna give me full credit. Or, I know I know I'm on contract and I shouldn't leave for lunch, but, I shouldn't get more, I don't need to get suspended, right, Mary? But the classroom, I remember her class being the coolest class ever, just social changes in the 60s, who went to that kind of class? And that we got to do an entire, from murder scene all the way to the court, on how to do criminal justice, psychology, when we watched Cool Hand Luke. But the other part was that look, that she could just stare through your bullshit with her eyes closed and her arms crossed and sitting back in her chair. I felt like Mary grew me up in ways that my parents didn't, in ways that my family, the extended family, wasn't able to, because she could see into our little creative asshole hearts of what we really truly were and why we needed to go to Kansas City Academy of Learning. And that's what I have. Thanks, guys.
If anybody's hesitating or sitting on the fence. Okay. Mary's family, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving her to us. I think you can feel and hear, what kind of community she created, and what a life, what an amazing wife and sister and aunt she was, as well as an amazing educator and administrator. I think this kind of celebration of her life is a celebration of the community that she created, and I think that her life calls us all back to that community, to support it for, as Walker says, the kids coming up under us, for the parents in the future, for future faculty and staff, to continue Mary's legacy, Martha's legacy, Anne and Carol's legacy, Karen's legacy, Bob's legacy of building this community and continuing to nurture each other in that. Does anybody else want to speak? Okay. Finally, Penny's asked me to share a remembrance with you today entitled, Mary, My Soulmate for 40 Years. Penny and Mary met in April 1981, having been introduced by a mutual friend. They enjoyed going out together for several months and began their lives living together in December of that year. In July 1982, they had a private commitment ceremony and exchanged rings and vows. On the 30th anniversary of that ceremony, they were married in Iowa, and the judge commented, like, "It looks like you've got this commitment thing down." They lived in Prairie Village for 13 years and have lived in Leawood for the last 27 years. With Mary teaching school and Penny working in accounting, and both of them returning to college at various times, they kept pretty busy. But they did find time to frequently go to Mary's farm in southwest Missouri, which had a beautiful, clear, spring-fed creek flowing around parts of it, perfect for canoe trips. And over the years, they did manage to take some other trips to the Lake of the Ozarks, Table Rock Lake, Myrtle Beach, Key West, Colorado, Memphis, Hilton Head, Las Vegas, Dunedin, Florida. Am I saying that right? Dunedin? Okay. Sanibel, Hawaii, Chicago, Virginia, Tulsa, and to go on several Caribbean cruises. With Mary in a helping profession, making the world a better place, one successful student at a time, Penny was busy working in accounting in the insurance industry and was able to support the school in many ways, getting crews of dozens of GE volunteers on several occasions to paint and build and garden, plus getting donations of chairs, tables, etc., and the entire science lab. Again, their combined efforts meshed to make good things happen. They were best friends and compatible in many ways, but also different in others, and were able to complement and support each other's skills and shortcomings. In other words, they were the perfect pair. Penny will greatly miss her better half, who did so much to make this world a better, kinder place. And KCA will always have a big part of Penny's heart, from its very beginnings in the basement room of their Prairie Village home. KCA will always be a reminder to Penny of that wonderful, intelligent, fun, and funny woman who always kept a stash of chocolate on her desk in the principal's office. Thank you, Penny, for allowing me to share your story. In the words of community chaplain Kate Brastrap, now we must together walk fearlessly into the house of mourning, for grief is just love, squaring up to its oldest enemy. And after all these mortal human years, love is up to the challenge. I'd like to invite everyone to join us across the street for the reception.
I would like to thank all of you for coming. You have touched my heart and made what I thought was going to be such a difficult day. Made me feel so blessed that she has helped so many and made this world a better place. And I thank you so much for coming.